The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension, the air thick with unspoken judgment. Representatives from countless species, their forms diverse and alien, filled the vast hall with murmurs and whispers. The assembly, a symbol of unity in a chaotic galaxy, was anything but united today. At the center of it all stood the human diplomat, their figure dwarfed by the grandeur of the chamber, yet radiating a quiet confidence. An alien delegate, towering and adorned in ceremonial armor, spoke with disdain. "Humanity fears war," it declared, its voice reverberating through the chamber. "They are weak. Their history is littered with hesitation and compromise. How can such a species hold a place among us when the galaxy teeters on the edge of conflict?" The murmurs grew louder, a cacophony of agreement and doubt. Several representatives nodded, their gestures translating to disdain in their respective cultures. The accusation was not new. Humanity's reputation as a relatively recent addition to the Council made them an easy target. Another delegate, serpentine in form, hissed, "Their unwillingness to commit fully to the armament initiative is proof of their cowardice. When the Tyrak armadas come, what use will humanity be to us? A liability at best, a target at worst?" The human diplomat listened in silence, their gaze steady. Their stillness was unnerving to those expecting protest or defense. For a moment, the noise of the chamber seemed to swallow them whole, but then they stood, commanding the floor without raising a hand or voice. The room fell silent, more out of curiosity than respect. "When you speak of fear," the diplomat began, their voice calm yet cutting, "you misunderstand us entirely." They looked around, meeting the eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, of each delegate. "You assume our reluctance to embrace war is born of weakness, that our desire for peace reflects fear. Allow me to correct that misconception." The Council's collective attention sharpened. Even the most cynical among them could not ignore the quiet conviction in the human's voice. "Humanity does not fear war," the diplomat continued. "We loathe it, because we know it intimately." They stepped forward, their presence seeming to expand. "For thousands of years, war has been our constant companion. We have fought over land, resources, ideology, sometimes even for reasons so trivial they are forgotten by history. And yet, we endure." A flicker of uncertainty passed over the faces of several delegates. The human's words carried weight, an undeniable truth that could not be dismissed. "Our survival is not a testament to cowardice," they said, their tone growing firmer. "It is a testament to resilience, to adaptability. You see, we do not rush to war because we understand its cost better than most. We have paid that price in blood and ash, in the loss of countless lives and the ruin of civilizations. But make no mistake, when war comes to us, we do not falter. We do not crumble. We fight, and we win." The hall was silent, save for the faint hum of the chamber's energy field. The human diplomat's words hung in the air, a challenge unspoken but clearly felt. The delegates shifted uneasily, their earlier certainty now tinged with doubt. The human fixed their gaze on the original accuser, their voice dropping to a near whisper that carried across the room with startling clarity. "You mistake our pursuit of peace for fear. But let me assure you, peace is not the absence of strength, it is the mastery of it. And if you ever force us to prove that, you will regret it." The chamber remained silent, the weight of the human's words pressing down on every delegate. For the first time, it seemed the Galactic Council truly understood the species they had underestimated. The human diplomat sat down, their point made, and the debate moved on, but the impression they left lingered long after. The chamber remained tense, the echo of the human diplomat's words still reverberating through the air. After a long pause, they rose to speak again, their voice steady but sharper this time, carrying a weight of conviction that demanded attention. "You speak as if war is a foreign concept to us," they began, eyes narrowing slightly. "Allow me to correct your perspective. Humanity has not only known war, we have perfected its brutal art." Their tone was no longer calm but deliberate, cutting through the quiet with a precision honed by centuries of diplomatic experience. "Let me take you back to the early days of our existence," they said, their words weaving vivid imagery. Imagine tribes fighting over the scarce resources of a harsh, unforgiving world. From the dawn of our history, survival was not guaranteed. It was earned through blood, ingenuity, and an unrelenting will to endure. They paused, letting the gravity of their statement settle before continuing. We fought wars to defend our homes, our people, and our ideals. Wars that tested the limits of our endurance. Some of those wars lasted decades, even centuries. Entire generations were born and died in the shadow of conflict, and still, we endured. The delegates shifted in their seats, uneasy, but unable to look away. The humans' words painted a vivid picture of struggle and perseverance that many found difficult to comprehend. Consider our so-called world wars, the diplomat continued, their voice rising slightly. Conflicts that spanned continents, consumed millions of lives, and devastated entire nations. We invented weapons capable of obliterating cities and altered the course of history with a single decision. And yet, when the dust settled, we rebuilt. We learned. We adapted. The room remained silent, the weight of their words pressing down like a physical force. Even as we reached for the stars, war followed us. Colonies fought for independence. Nations clashed over resources on barren planets. We encountered hostile species and defended ourselves with ferocity unmatched by anything you've ever seen. They leaned forward slightly, their gaze piercing. You mistake our restraint for inexperience, our diplomacy for naivety. But know this, we do not fear war because we understand it better than you ever could. We know its costs we have paid time and time again. Lives lost, homes destroyed, entire ecosystems obliterated. War is not a game to us. It is a tragedy, a last resort when all else has failed. But when we are forced into it, we do not hesitate. We do not falter. The delegates were transfixed, the room's silence, now heavy with an unspoken understanding. We have forged alliances in the fires of conflict, united nations that once sought each other's destruction. We have turned enemies into allies, built bridges over the ruins of war. And through it all, we have grown stronger, smarter, more capable. Their voice dropped, cold and resolute. So, when you accuse us of fearing war, I cannot help but laugh. Fear? No. Humanity does not fear war. We despise it, but we wield it like a scalpel when necessary. And if you believe for a moment that we are unprepared to defend ourselves or this council, you are gravely mistaken. A murmur rippled through the assembly, but it was different now. Not dismissive or mocking, but uneasy. The human had stripped away the facade of arrogance and ignorance that some had used to comfort themselves. We are here, the diplomat said finally, not because we fear war, but because we understand its power. We have seen what it can do, and we strive to prevent it. But do not test us. If you force our hand, you will see that while humanity does not start wars lightly, we end them decisively. They sat back down, their presence still commanding despite their silence. For the first time, many in the room began to see humanity not as weak or naive, but as a species tempered by fire, ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them. The silence in the chamber was electric, a charged void that pressed down on every being present. The human diplomat rose again, their demeanor steady, but their voice carried a sharper edge, an unwavering confidence that demanded attention. You view us as if we are an anomaly, a species that clings to ideals, while the galaxy hardens itself for war. But you misunderstand the essence of humanity, they began, their tone firm. We are not a species that fights for the sake of fighting, nor do we shy away when conflict is inevitable. What sets us apart is that we understand the balance between the two, and we excel in finding solutions where others only see obstacles. Their gaze swept across the room, landing on each delegate as if to challenge them individually. Do you know why humanity was invited to this council? Not because we begged for inclusion, or because we sought to prove our worth. It was because of what we achieved when no one believed we could. A brief pause, calculated and deliberate, followed before they continued. When our first colonies were attacked by forces far superior to anything we had encountered before, the galaxy expected us to crumble. We didn't. We adapted. We turned our setbacks into victories, learning from every failure and innovating in ways no one could predict. Within decades, humanity went from a fledgling spacefaring race to a force that could hold its own against empires that had spanned millennia. Their voice grew more resolute, layered with a quiet pride. But it was not our weapons that earned us a place here. It was our ability to unite, to strategize, and to build something greater than ourselves. When other species sought only to expand their territories, we sought to create alliances. Where others saw threats, we saw opportunities. And when others sought domination, we offered partnership. That is humanity's strength, our ability to see beyond war even when it surrounds us. Several delegates exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from skepticism to a grudging respect. The human pressed on undeterred. We brought more than ourselves to this council, they said. We brought the ideals of cooperation, resilience, and innovation. How many species here owe their survival to the technologies we developed, the resources we shared, the strategies we offered? You call us weak because we value peace, yet you have benefited from that very principle. When the Xynar Armada threatened your sectors, who provided the intelligence that turned the tide? When the Grelton Plague ravaged your worlds, who shared the medical advancements to save millions? Humanity. The room was silent again, but this time it was not out of shock, it was understanding. The truth in their words was undeniable. We do not boast of our accomplishments, they continued, their voice steady and firm. We do not demand recognition or repayment. We act because it is the right thing to do, because we know that our survival is tied to the survival of others. But let me be clear, this does not make us weak. It makes us strong in ways you have yet to comprehend. They leaned forward slightly, their tone dropping into something colder, more resolute. You speak of war as if it is the only measure of strength, but humanity measures strength differently. Strength is the ability to endure the unendurable, to find solutions where none exist, to fight not just for survival but for a future worth living in. If that makes us an outlier, then so be it. We will gladly remain one. Their gaze lingered on the room, a silent challenge in their eyes. But know this, if you force our hand, if you make war inevitable, we will not hesitate. We will not falter. We will fight with the same strength and determination that has carried us through countless trials. And we will prevail, not because we seek to dominate, but because we fight for something far greater than ourselves. The human diplomat stepped back, the weight of their words lingering in the air. The council members, once dismissive, now regarded them with a new understanding, a grudging respect for a species they had underestimated for far too long.